Survivor Specialists are back, and we are talking the new era, celebrating Survivor seasons 41 through 49. And obviously, we had to get Teg with us for these group of seasons because, I mean, these were really where you shined, I think.
Yeah. People, if there's one thing about me, is people think that I'm obsessed with the new era, and I am. So you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, there are some other reasons I think that we wanted you on the podcast today, but let's start off with, what does this era mean to you?
So this era is really interesting because on a personal level, this era means a lot to me. This is when I started covering Survivor. This is really kind of when I was able to take my personal social media stuff to the next level. And so it means a lot. It means quite a bit to me personally, but on a game level, I think this is obviously the era of change, right? Every 2 years, or pardon me, every 2 seasons, there are changes. No 2 seasons, like, sex are alike. And something is different every single time. And so to me, like, this grouping of seasons, it's just, the big word here is change, and you better be okay with it.
John, what do these seasons mean to you?
I mean, the new era is such a fascinating creature when it comes to Survivor. It changed the game completely, but not really at the same time. But again, like, on a personal level, McKenna, these are the first live seasons you and I got to watch together. We started the rewind during 44, so these seasons definitely hold like a very special place in my heart. And they have their flaws, but every season of Survivor has flaws. There's no such thing as a perfect season of Survivor. So being here, being able to like reflect on the end of this first section of 10 seasons since COVID, leading into Survivor 50, it's really fascinating to just look back at it and realize, man, I just really love Survivor.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like you said, it was the first group of seasons that I could watch with my new Survivor friends, that I could talk strategy with, and not like my mom watching Winners at War because she loves Boston Rob. Like, I love my mom and I love being able to talk about it with her, but it's not the same as like, all right, the strategy behind this move. And this was also like the COVID plus the new era was when I started being a part of the Specialists as well, and starting to podcast. I did a lot on Patreon, so my voice and face weren't really seen to the public, but I was doing a lot over on the Patreon for the early seasons, and then John and I got our show. So the new era, while it has its flaws, it has a lot of good memories for me. I also went to the premiere of 41 for Bryson Wen. Like, that was so new. And actually, people thought, there's a Reddit post out there somewhere where there was someone that looked like Evie at the 41 premiere. Like, everyone kept coming up to me and be like, Evie? And I was like, no. Did I wear a fruity shirt and a yellow buff on purpose? Maybe. Because pre-season, everyone was comparing me to Evie and be like, are you on Survivor this season? I was like, no, not me. And then you get hit with Izzy on Big Brother right after it, and I'm like, all right, this has got to stop. But anywho, so yes, this is the new era. And what are some overarching themes of the new era? Well, it's a shortened game, first of all. The switch from 39 to 26. Now, we understood it for maybe 41, 42, but then it stuck. Tegwith, thoughts on the shortened game?
Yeah, for the longest time, I just kind of took a contrarian's perspective here, because I just wanted to watch Survivor and enjoy Survivor, and been like, guys, it doesn't affect the game too much. It's okay. Everything's fine. It's still Survivor. All of that is still true. But the more we sit with this, and the more that I've come to the realization that it's never leaving, at least, and for the next 5 years, at least. It's just so sad because it does affect the game, and I don't think it affects the viewing experience, but it does affect how people play the game. You're not getting as annoyed, you don't have as much time out there, all of these other things. And I understand why they had to do it, right? I understand for COVID why they had to do it, and they had to quarantine for 2 weeks before they can even do press. So they were out there for a long time. I can't even imagine quarantining in a new place. You're by yourself. Can't really talk to anybody. That must have been horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand why they had to do it. But the fact that they, kept it stunk. But again, it doesn't affect the viewing experience so much, except for when I see it in the bottom left and it's 15 days in and we're over halfway through the game. I was like, don't tell me what day it is. Please just let me live.
Ambiguous. I want to imagine it's actually day 23.
Yeah, let me live in this false world that I've concocted where, it's day 24, 25, not 14 or whatever it is. But yeah, it's one of those things that it's like kind of it sucks that it's still there. But at least we've got Survivor, I guess.
That is true. When 41 was going on after that year gap, it's like, well, this isn't the best, but at least we have Survivor.
Yeah.
John, we also had no rations and the sweat versus savvy and having to earn things where it's not just given to us. And while sweat versus savvy has trickled off, we still have the marooning challenge to get the flint, to do all of that. And so what are your thoughts on even just a pot they have to try and earn now?
Throughout the 26 years Survivor's been on our TVs, we've seen so many different variations of how they start the game, right? We have the very first marooning where, they're grabbing things off a barge and going to the beach, but they have a lot of supplies with them in these first couple of early seasons. Like, they were given a decent amount of like non-perishable foods. Who will ever forget the cherries in Africa and things like that, right? There were canned goods that they started with. And then we kind of get to the point where it's like, okay, you're only getting rice. Or, hey, we're not giving you anything. And then it kind of became a staple of, okay, we're giving you rice. You don't have to boil water anymore because that's kind of just like a hassle. And then we get to the new era. And they're like, you know what? 26 days. We got to make it at least a little harder. So we're not going to give them food. I get having a challenge to get flint. But that is something that we've always had in Survivor. We've just changed kind of the way we approach it with the new era, where it is this first thing. We had Sweat vs. Savvy, which was interesting in concept until they ran out of ideas of how to do Sweat vs. Savvy. I actually kind of like where this supplies challenge has gone in recent seasons with the like head-to-head battle between people that we've gotten since 47. However, let's just give these people like basic supplies to start the game. Like, it's not necessary, right? And what we've seen because of this, we've seen the emergence of disaster tribes, and we've always had disaster tribes in Survivor. It just is really exasperated through the new era because it's always whoever ends up not getting their flint. And beyond them having to compete to get, a machete and a pot and flint to start the game, I actually think kind of like the worst change we've really seen from the new era is them losing their flint in the pre-merge if they lose a challenge.
Yeah, that's rough. And so they also are stuck in these 3 tribe formats. I always love going into the seasons of like, okay, what do we have? We have brains versus brawn versus beauty. Obviously 3 tribes, but then we have like a blood versus water, or just millennials versus Gen X, something where it flips the script a little bit, where it's not just, all right, we're starting the same way every single time. And if the 3 tribe start doesn't leave a lot for gameplay and maneuverability, especially if some of the seasons you don't have a swap or you just swap one person. Like, if we're not swapping from 3 to 2, it just leads to the merge not being all that fun. So I hope after 50 we get a diversification again of starting tribes.
Huge. Yeah, totally agree.
I think when we're looking at these tribes, though, and I think sometimes when we see these disaster tribes and everything, yes, it has to do with the lessening of supplies and everything. But then once we got into swaps, when we finally got swaps back, tribe switches, as McKenna
Yes.
and I have had an existential crisis over the last season figuring this out. Once we got there, there's still this question of like, okay, why is the game why is the game still feel like it's not really going? Why are people sticking to their original tribes more? And it probably is to do in conjunction with the quickened pace of the game. The fact that we're on a 26-day game, the fact that there's less time and less turnover. You don't have enough time to build those relationships after a swap to feel safe working with people you weren't already working with. Now, we are getting to a point where we are seeing that more. We are seeing people branch out more. We're seeing them build relationships more post-swap. And I think that has to do with just like early swaps. I think having 2 swaps in 49 was actually huge.
Yes.
Because it really mixed things up. It made that season a lot more exciting than it could have been. But the entire aspect of this game being short and condensed really does encourage people, especially when we're starting them on small tribes all the time, to stick together. And it really does kind of lead to a bit stagnant gameplay, which I'm glad we are seeing the game evolve past that.
Yeah, exactly. And in the pre-merge and a little bit in the merge, they're not as common in the merge. We get journeys throughout the new era. And what's interesting about these journeys, watching the new era and then going back into older seasons, they tested the waters with a bunch of different aspects of the new era throughout, like, I'd say 38, 39, 40, where Island of the Idols, that's journeys the entire time. So are they a good thing in Survivor? Maybe, because it leads to that cross-tribal communication of 41, 42, where they had to do this massive hike. They had time to talk to each other. Now, are some of the more recent ones maybe a little weaker? Sure, because you don't get that like true bonding time to be able to talk to one another. But you have to now navigate the whole journey aspect of, do you have an advantage? And that's so scary to come into when you know either, oh crap, I drew the wrong straw, like I didn't want to do this, or someone that you don't want having an advantage goes on the journey.
McKenna, I'll go one further here. I'll go back even further than like 39 for journeys. The first journeys we had were in Micronesia, when you had people from separate tribes going to Exile Island together.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like because they've changed it so that it's not Exile Island, it's not as long. We just aren't viewing it that way, and there's so much emphasis on the journey aspect of it now. So, Tag, with what makes these journeys so different than Exile Island, which tends, like, journeys in the community are kind of like a little bemoaned at this point, I would say, but everyone loves Exile Island. So what's the difference between them?
You know, I think the difference between them is what a journey means. So I think a journey, at least now, feels a little bit more forced. You know, it's literally forced. You have to go on a journey. You know, if somebody has to take this journey. And I think that when they actually get to wherever they're going and they do whatever it is, you know, those first journeys, it was the same exact thing. It was the turning of the ship wheel. We called it Ship Wheel Island, right? Like, it was the same thing over and over. And then they switched it up and they did something different But it started getting crazier and crazier. The big thing here, I think, is the fact of the potential of the lost vote. I don't actually think the journey is the problem. The problem here is the potential of the lost vote, and how I think the forced lost vote. Yes. Because I think a lot of fans really don't like it when the players don't have agency. And the fact that you go to this thing and you go, hey, I could possibly be going to tribal. I mean, I'm definitely going to tribal council tonight. I need my vote. But I have to do this thing where I'm rolling dice to potentially lose my vote. Like, that is the thing that I think that fans have a problem with, is forcing players into positions that could potentially hurt their game. Because I think one of the great things about Survivor is, obviously, every single game is going to be a little bit about luck. But in Survivor, players have always had a little bit of agency because of the social game. Because, you know, yes, you might have to win the challenge, but if you don't win the challenge, maybe you can sneak in there and find a crack or whatever else. Like, you can try to figure out a way. But in the new era, I think, especially with the journeys, it highlights that you know what? Like we're producing this. This is a production, and we're forcing you to do this for television, which is how it feels to me, at least. And so that's why I don't like Journeys. I would have no problem with Journeys if it was like, hey, we're going on this journey. Like, bring back camp raids. Like, I would have no problem with Journeys
or the stolen castaway or something like that.
Exactly. Or even keep the journeys the exact same, but let people decide whether or not they want to play. Or maybe there's no lost vote at all. It's only for an advantage. Like, there are so many options here that I just feel like fans would be more okay with. That it seems like a very silly thing that they're just still forcing these lost votes.
Yeah, I guess that's true with like Island of the Idols. They could see the game and then decide, nah, I'm good. Like, that's too risky. I need my vote or something like that. Where
unless they were Jamal.
Except for Jamal. And
he didn't go to Island of the Idols for that. He just found a paper right in camp.
I can't talk about that. I was going to bring that up on the Hot Takes podcast, being like, my hot take is Jamal needs a second shot because he got robbed.
I think that's a hot take.
Two episodes earlier, they're like, oh, you got to take chances here on Survivor. And then here they're like, you know what? You shouldn't always take chances on Survivor. What are you trying to tell us? Oh, you should have said Jamal, because now we're on another Sorry.
So we also get a new thing where not everybody gets to join the merge. We are one tribe. He like pulls a Thailand for the rest of the new era. And it's like, you're in one camp now, but I never said you made the merge until half of you win this challenge. But also the hourglass in the first few seasons. So you don't actually make the merge. So before we get to the hourglass of it all, earn the merge. Do we like it? Is it fine? What are your feelings on it? Out.
Please go for it, Declan. Just like tell us right now.
I don't like it when it's like they're toying with people. I don't like it when just in the past people have made the merge and they've made the merge tribe, but they haven't made the jury. Boston Rob is the person that I think of when I do it. That stinks, right? But at least they got that buff, right? At least they got that buff. I don't think that if you're merging the tribes, babe, you've merged the tribes. Like, you're there. Yeah, I don't split them up. That's fine. Like, half of them, maybe not fine. We can talk about that. But half of them being safe, whatever. But I genuinely hate this idea of like earning your way, because if you have survived the votes, you've earned that. Like, I'm so sorry. You've survived all of the other votes. We've earned that. And so I think it's a very silly kind of line drawn in the sand, if you will, of, I'm sorry, you are actually merged. You're just not giving one person a buff for fun. Like, I just feel like it's weird.
It's just not in the budget anymore.
It's just not, they can't do the extra buff. They can't do the extra buff. It's just one of those things where I just really don't think it's important. I think it's a very silly, like, line drawn in the sand to me personally.
It's very interesting that we're still at a point where we're mostly dealing with this so far into Survivor at this point, because it's something that after the hourglass was removed, you thought would be removed. But essentially, we play one round of one world, and half the cast gets immunity and can't be voted for, which changes the way that things go. And for so long, it was a random pick. At least like we're now at schoolyard picks, which they refuse to show us. So like now there's at least some strategy that's going into these earn the merge challenges. But originally, it was just like, oh, well, did you get lucky and got onto the right tribe? Or did you get lucky, get on the wrong tribe, and Erica smashed an hourglass? Like, it's such a strange concept, because it's still 10 seasons later, feels very foreign to what Survivor is, even though we're ready for it, even though we're at a point where we can map out every single one of these seasons from 41 to 49. We can tell you exactly what twist is going to be introduced at what point in the game. We know exactly how each of these votes are going to go. There's a little variance in when we split the tribe post-merge. But other than that, it's very uniform and routine. Why? Why isn't there variety in it? I mean, even if we're still doing this earn the merge thing, which is frustrating. It's frustrating because that person deserves to make the merge, but that means they also deserve to make the journey or the jury. So maybe just like have another tribal vote. I think maybe it's just like we're seeing all these disaster tribes, and it's like, oh, this is the point where if someone gets down to 2 people, we can just say it's a merge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I would be more okay with earn the merge if a couple of things happened. If it was earn the merge feast instead of earn the actual merge. If it was, hey, we want to, break you guys up for the individual portion of the game. You have to earn your way to individual immunity. So the little grouping who wins the one challenge goes and competes. Sure, that's fine. So it just feels like, I don't know. If the next few rounds you don't have that I'm going to split you up again. Like there's 3 or 4 rounds of the merge that they're not really merged, and it's like, why are they merged? Just swap them into 2 tribes.
Yeah. Literally a tribe swap is right there. It's right there. and that's I'm like that is what you want to do here. And I feel like they did this because of the disaster tribes, but then again, yet I'm like, swap them into 2 tribes. Like you don't have to swap into 3 tribes. Like I think that the big thing here is going back to, I think Survivor sometimes makes things a little bit too like the production team makes things a slightly more complicated than they need to be, but then sometimes also slightly too simplified. Like I think that it is just one of those things that seems so easily fixable, and yet it hasn't been done.
Yeah. And all right, so let's go with the hourglass of it all.
Do we have to?
All right, we can do like 2 minutes.
The hourglass literally almost ended this podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were thinking of. It's just too overpowered. If they smash the hourglass, they get immunity and other people get immunity. Well, what's the incentive to not smash the hourglass? Like they have to balance it somehow of like, this is an actual decision that I'm making to reverse the history of what's going on.
I think I don't know if this is real or not, but my anticipation of this thought process is production probably viewed it as, oh, okay, you're saving yourself and some other people, but you're pissing some other people off. I don't think they anticipated the castaways turning on production for the twist as much as they did in 41. I don't think they anticipated Danny McRae standing there for 3 hours saying how unfair it was that this was a thing that happened. Because ultimately, the rules that they made it so that the only logical decision for the person who is posed the option of smashing the hourglass is to smash the hourglass. It's the correct decision to make because it guarantees your own safety. So I don't think, I think that's actually something that is really nice about 41 is we don't see players blaming players for making a move that logically makes sense based on the rules that are presented to them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, all right, great. We talked about the hourglass. It's over and done with. Rice negotiation, anybody?
Go for it, Tagwa.
Rice negotiation I actually don't hate as much as other people. I know that it's probably going to be over. Jeff said it was over in 49 because no one jumped at it. I think the rice negotiation is really interesting. I just think they do it at the wrong time. Obviously this started with Angelina. I think that's probably where they got the idea for this. And the idea here is, hey, we're giving you nothing here. Nothing. You don't have any kind of food. You have no sustenance. This is a way for you to get sustenance. Just don't do the immunity challenge. And I don't actually hate the idea on paper. I think this would be incredibly interesting if it was brought to the tribes and not individual. If they do it in the first, week, because that's when people are adjusting to the game. That is when they are playing together. They say, hey, I need you to bid on how many people you're willing to sit out. You write it down on a sheet of paper and you bid on that and whatever else. And the person with the highest bid will get the rice, but then you now don't have as many people to run in this challenge or whatever. So in potentially putting up your individual immunity challenge. I actually think this is a very useful game mechanic.
That's good.
And it gives us the right idea, but they just do it way too late in the game. And they also, it's too late in the game when it's 26 days. If this was a 39-day game and they, at final 7, they would have how many days left? You guys are you probably know better than me, like probably what, 14 days left in a final, something like that? Like maybe
like
12?
2 to 3 days between each.
Yeah.
Like, 6 seasons.
So at a final 7, that is 2 weeks potentially. And that is a long time. But here now, it's like, I've got a week left of this game. Like, I don't need to.
I can start for a week.
A week is fine. But if it's longer, you're like, well, maybe this is actually something that could benefit me. And so I think it's actually a really interesting thing that they added into the game. I just think a few tweaks could make it a lot better.
Yeah.
McKenna, I just had this thought as tag with this going on about how the rice negotiation could be better in the merge. Is the failure of the rice negotiation a consequence of not giving these people food in the first place? Because in the old seasons, when we do see people negotiate for rice or supplies in general, it's because they've had it already. They overportioned, and they are, experience the consequences of not being in control of it. When in the new era, they're so used to not having food that it doesn't matter if they don't get rice for the
That's actually a really good idea, because I always think of Koyopa and Hunapu from San Juan del Sur. When they swap tribes, they're just like, oh, this is why they've been winning. They've eaten all of their rice. Now we have to try and ask for more rice when, I swapped onto this tribe. This is terrible. But yeah, that's actually a really interesting thought. If they gave them a little bit of rice or something to tide them over, and then they realize, oh, we don't have any more rice. How are we going to keep sustaining ourselves? Well, we have been sustaining ourselves, so it doesn't matter. That's also a good idea too, of dangle the carrot a little bit. One more, I think, absolutely terrible thing that the new era did, and then we can go into some more positive things. Do or die.
Hey.
This didn't die fast enough.
I
know, it should have died with Deshaun.
It should have died before Deshaun. It should have never made it into the show.
Yes. I think this is a bit crazy, where it's just like, okay, you're eliminated or you're safe just by participating in a challenge and getting last. You could give up immunity and then, you're fine, doesn't matter, you're just not safe. Or you can participate in this challenge and maybe lose, and then you're out of the game just because you lost a challenge, not because of your social game. And it's like, what is the purpose of this? I know you want players' backs against the walls at some point, but do or die is not the way to go. It's how do we navigate around an idol? That's the back against the wall that I want, not forcing someone out of the game.
Yeah, 100% agree. I literally see it goes back to the players lose agency, and we don't like it when the players lose that agency. We like Survivor, shocker, and we like to see the players play Survivor, not Survivor play the players. And that is Survivor playing the players 101. And also, I think this is one of these things where we're seeing a lot now, this kind of physicalization of Survivor. And what I mean by that is, back in the day, there used to be memory challenges. There used to be social challenges. There used to be challenges that were like, hey, let's play that game where you connect the dots and, the last person standing, or step on a thing or whatever else. There are so many different non-physical immunity, individual or tribe challenges that they used to do. They took this out of the game. They don't have any of that. It's physical now for all of the immunity challenges. There is never a memory challenge. There's not a social challenge. There's nothing left in the game that is a non-physical thing. And so this just goes to production wanting it to be a physical game, when Survivor is beautiful because it's a combination of a lot of different types of games. And this just shows that production really, there was a challenge where you literally put numbers in a row, word
search.
there was, so I think this just is another thing where they're like, well, we want people to be able to be strong. But isn't your favorite player also Suri? Like, what do you want here? You know what I mean?
If you can't beat them with these, you
Yeah.
can beat them with these.
And
it's
just and they go, no, we only want you to beat them with these. Like that's what it that to me, it's a do or die is a personification of production putting physical challenges as the most important thing in Survivor when it is absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Like something I hadn't even thought about. And you mentioned it, and it's like, yeah, we kind of complain about how challenges nowadays are always like, here's obstacle course into puzzle. And it's like, okay, the fact that these challenges are ending in puzzles, we're like, okay, here's our like brain element. But it's nothing compared to some of these older challenges that we used to have that really did diversify how people could do these things. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we've seen so many people tie or potentially like come really close to breaking immunity record, the individual immunity records now, because it's the same people who are benefiting from the design of these challenges. Yeah, it's impressive. It's incredibly impressive that we have all these people going hard at these individual immunity challenges. It was super impressive seeing Savannah actually come close to tying the male record and being the like one of the first people to actually have a chance of tying that record. That was really impressive. But these challenges tend to favor one person on the cast more than others, and I think that's why we're seeing these runs more. Going back to the do or die, though, do you know the one thing that irks me the most about the do or die is? It's the Monty Hall problem, right? Yeah. Classic Monty Hall problem. Everyone understands the math about it, and if you don't, there's a podcast that Christian explains it. It's much better than what I will be able to do. Point being is essentially when you pick a box, Jeff shows you one of the other boxes. It's like the good box. So now there's a chance you're supposed to switch. Like every time, mathematically, it's the correct thing to do. The fact that that was not the case in either instance of the do or die drives me insane. And like, no reason it should drive me insane, but it drives me insane so much.
Yeah, they do the problem incorrectly, and then they're fine. And I'm like, you know, I know it's clearly probability. I understand that it's probability, meaning that it's not guaranteed, but man, did that bug me. Like both times, I hated it.
It's just one of those things. And it's like, it shouldn't bug me as much as it does, but it sure does.
And it's not their fault. They're in. I'm glad. I'm so glad. But I'm like, maybe not knowing Monty Hall problem is beneficial, you know, it was beneficial to their game. But man, I sat at home going, oh no, they did it wrong. Oh, wait. Oh, God.
I just remember many conversations with many Survivor fans about what the correct thing to do in those instances were, and then trying to argue through confirmation bias.
Yeah.
The last real like game structure thing that we got here is Jeff reading the votes out on the island. We don't have the live reunions, and we have the after show, which some people wouldn't think it's like a game structure because it's after the game is over basically, but everybody is still in game mode because they literally just crowned the winner and people just lost the game or just won the game, and they don't have time to process anything for the after show. Well, it is good because it's a shortened version of the reunion, and sometimes we don't need that long of a reunion, but it's bad because the players don't get to decompress, see what happened in the game, and get to just like air out their thoughts in a better manner. They just have to realize like, oh, Maria didn't vote for me. That sucks. And it's just like right out in the open.
Yeah.
I think okay. Here's maybe one of the wildest things I'm going to say on this entire thing. There are merits to the immediate after show. I think it sucks for the people in Final Tribal Council. I think it sucks for them so much. I think it sucks for pre-mergers who don't get to be out there and like decompress the game. However, it is kind of nice getting more raw reactions from the jurors without them having and to an extent the final three as well, without them having gone through the months to process it and build their own stories and kind of like figure out how they want to respond to things or say things or just like rewrite the actual truth. We're more likely to get real raw responses in the after show than we are in the reunion. And I think sometimes we do get to the reunion and we do see more catered responses to things, and people able to defend actions, or people being like, oh yeah, no, this was totally the right thing to do because look at all the strategy that's going on behind it, or just even seeing what people are doing behind the scenes and everything, right? That being said, that's kind of the fun thing of it as well, is seeing people react to all these confessionals that they had no idea what was going on, and being like, oh, hey, maybe this person was playing the game a lot better than I was giving them credit for.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen like a 44 reunion specifically, like, you know, having just an after show for that season where the players didn't really get to see Carolyn's confessionals and Carolyn's game. I think that would have really been very interesting to hear their perspective at a reunion. But I also am somebody who sees the merits of an immediate after show. But I think that it would be like, in a perfect world, we would have both. Like, I have no problem with the reading of the votes out there. That is fine. I don't need to hear a reading of the votes at, you know, a live thing. I don't need that. A reading of the votes out there is totally fine. Give me 10 minutes of exactly what they do. Just kind of like a quick little thing going through, getting everyone's raw reactions, and then cut to, here they are now. Here's the reunion show. I also, again, it does not have to be a live thing. Like, the Traders records their reunion like a week earlier. Do that. Record the reunion the day before. Do like an early screening. Record the reunion the day before. Like, I have no problem with that. And do like a 45-minute reunion. Because here's a couple of things. With the reunion, you said this, you get pre-mergers. And I think it is such a detriment to how viewers view the pre-merge game. Because it puts it as something like, that doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with this game. When that's how people build their game. Yeah. The reason Kyle did not get voted out in season 48 is because of an idol that he played to get out a major player in the pre-merge. And we didn't get to hear from Thomas at all. Like, it's that kind of a thing, because I think that there are maybe casual viewers who don't necessarily put as much emphasis on the pre-merge, because they know it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, because you're not going to be able to hear, you're never going to hear from them again unless you follow them. And so I think that if we had both, it would actually be like this perfect, beautiful, wonderful reunion finale, and it would be the most interesting version of it, in my opinion.
So, as someone who has played many LRGs and gone pre-merge a bunch of times, and like feeling sometimes that like the pre-mergers don't matter, it like, I sympathize with the pre-mergers of the new era, because they don't get to have their 5 seconds to be like, oh, you know, if only this happened, or like, oh, without me, you wouldn't have done whatever at the reunion. Like, that sucks for them to not be able to have their stories and not be able to like be recognized for the games that they played. Because, not saying the reunion always helps pre-mergers like come back, but at the same time, you get to see them once more and be like, oh yes, their game was good.
Now, here's something to consider, because we haven't had this opportunity yet in the new era with this, with the after show and everything. Reading the votes live, it's going to be very interesting seeing how this affects the way Savannah plays 50. Because when we look at a returnee season that had an immediate returner who didn't know if he won the game or not, and plays the exact same game again, which is a losing game, we get Russell in Heroes versus Villains. Right? So like, there's pros and cons to it, where if Russell knew he lost the game, would he have even agreed to come out to Heroes versus Villains? Would he have played the same way? Probably, because that's just the only way Russell plays. We saw that when he came back for Redemption Island and for Australian Survivor. But like, that could have robbed us of that, right? Like, we might not have gotten that, and Heroes vs. Villains might not have been the best season ever, as many people place it there, had he known the results of that final tribal council on the island.
Yeah, very true.
So it'll be really interesting to see how Savannah manages it, like what Savannah takes from her win and learns from it. But it's not even going to be the same, because Savannah actually did win, and Savannah isn't sitting there thinking she's won the game or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go into a different vein here of, celebrating Survivor, because we've been dogging on the new era a little bit here. But let's talk about some of the cultural impacts. And Tagwith, I'm going to you. We see a emergence of Survivor reality TV influencers. So if you could give us how you got started and all of the behind the scenes of that aspect of your life and how you came to be on the specialists and all that. So
yeah. So I think that social media is a really interesting tool and community for reality TV viewership in general. So when I started using TikTok. Well, we know that I started watching Survivor in 2018. So I had been watching Survivor, loves it. Went to RHAP live shows, was a part of the superfan community, maybe not to the extent that I am today, but definitely a part of the community. And then in 2020, I got bored out of my mind, and I was like, I need to do something, because I work in hospitality. So I didn't have a job for a year plus. And I was like, I need to do something. I'm just twiddling my thumbs. I need to do something. And I was really, really missing Survivor. Even though Survivor is my whole life now, it was a huge part of my life before I started social media. And so I was like, what can I do? What can I do? Well, Mike Bloom and Rob Cesternino did a lot of brand steal podcasts on RHAP during COVID. And I was like, I love these, but I'm a visual person. And I was like, I wish I had like a visual to this. Like, I wish I could see the players. I wish I could see what was going on, whatever else. And so I came up with this idea to do a social media Survivor simulation, which was my original handle. And I would do brand steals, and then the social media people, the people on the internet would help cast. So we came up with the theme, which was Heroes versus Villains 2. We cast the Heroes tribe, we cast the Villains tribe, all through votes. And then I, basically dressed as Jeff Probst and, I took clips from online and I spliced it all together, and people got voted out. And it was a very intricate process. And I got burnt out really fast. I hated it.
yeah.
I hated it. One video that was 2 minutes long, a minute long, would take me, I guess it was only a minute at that time, would take me literal hours of work.
Oh, I know. 3 hours for that hot take video.
Yeah. It was terrible. And I did 2 videos a day, every single day. And I just couldn't do it anymore. So then I stopped. But then when Survivor 41 rolled around, I was like, oh my God, we're getting Survivor. We're actually getting Survivor. This is amazing. And I said, well, I have a Survivor account, but what if I just started posting my thoughts on there? And so I started posting my thoughts, basically with the premiere of season 41 of Survivor. And I absolutely loved it. I basically did that all throughout 41, and then I continued it for 42, and obviously more and more and more. It took me a year to get to 1,000 followers on TikTok, another year to get to 5, another year to get to 10. So it's been a very long journey. I've been doing this for 5 years, and I absolutely love it. And when I started, there were maybe 2 or 3 accounts on TikTok that were like dedicated to Survivor. There were not that many. And one thing that I've learned through all of this is Survivor fans obviously love Survivor, but what they maybe love more than Survivor is sharing their thoughts and their feelings about this show with other people. And a lot of people don't have other people in their lives to share it with. I'm very lucky. My partner and I get to talk about Survivor. We know what we're talking about. We know, like, if somebody brings something up, we can have a conversation about our thoughts. And it's absolutely amazing. But not everybody has that. Maybe they're the only person they know that watches Survivor. Or maybe they have like one person, but they're just a casual viewer. And so what social media can give to the fans is a community that they just maybe don't have in their real life. And that is one thing that I've loved to be able to have, is a community. We get into arguments in the comments, but then, we'll agree on something else, in the next video. I'll say an opinion and people are like, you're the dumbest person I've ever met. But then there's somebody else who's like, wow, I totally agree with that. And so it's a really fascinating place. And I really, truly believe that social media has enhanced the way that I watch Survivor, and I believe it's enhanced the way a lot of other people have watched Survivor because no one wants to feel alone. Like, no one wants to feel dumb for the thing that they love. And I feel like a lot of us for a long time felt silly about loving this show. And the fact that you know that there is somebody else out there that loves the show as much, if not more than you do, is such a comforting feeling to know, like, hey, I'm not actually crazy. This is actually a really great show that deserves to be talked about. And I think that's what social media brings to the show.
I'm really glad you brought up this idea of like kind of feeling silly about liking Survivor, because for a long time, like the hardcore fans felt that way because every time you would bring up Survivor, you get that response of, "Oh, that show's still on," and now it's more like, "Oh my god, 50 seasons," but people don't ask if the show's still on anymore. And I think a lot of that has to do what we saw during COVID, and it was Netflix getting Survivor episodes. Yes, Survivor was already on Paramount Plus; you could watch it all on there. But it was I mean, let's be real. Paramount Plus is a very niche.
So niche.
Yeah, but it's my most used.
Same.
Yeah, but that's just because you're watching Survivor over and over again. However, Netflix, at the time, was still like a household thing. People had Netflix all the time. And putting on, what were the first 2 seasons it put on? It put on Heroes versus Villains and David versus Goliath.
Yeah.
Like 2 heavy-hitting seasons that are incredibly entertaining. And it really did kind of revitalize the fandom of Survivor. It made it so, especially in COVID, right? Like it was so smart to do it during COVID when people were just like looking for things to watch. I mean, guys, we went crazy for the Tiger King. Do you know how insane that is?
Yeah.
But so putting Survivor on there, like an infinitely bingeable show, a show that I binge ridiculously. McKenna, you're always binging Survivor. Like, I'm sure Tag with you are
the Survivor Live channel is always on in my house.
Exactly, right? You can always just watch an old episode of Survivor. Being able to capitalize on the fact that everyone was at home going stark crazy, just needing something to watch, and people are like, "Oh, I've heard of this show." It really did change the way people consume Survivor, and Survivor really did become kind of a household name again. Sure, it doesn't have the same ratings that it used to. It's not, premiering after the Super Bowl like it was back in Australian Outback. But people are watching it, people are seeking it out, and people are binging it like crazy.
Yeah. And with that also came all of these watch parties. Now, there were a few trickling here and there. Like Fair Play typically had a watch party in certain locations, certain episodes. But now it's like, all right, every episode has a watch party somewhere. And I know in New York City, there's St. Pat's, which is every Wednesday. Like there are bars putting on this TV show where you can go and watch it with friends, and it doesn't have to be in your apartment. So like it's wild that it has gotten to be, that crazy. And I know like pre-COVID there were some bars also doing this too, but like Bryce and Wen blew everything up. I think, in my opinion, they like really push the watch party culture.
Oh yeah.
I think the big thing was they decided to take it on tour, right? Like it took a couple seasons, but once they decided to take the watch party on tour and they were like, okay, we're bringing Survivors out. You can sit and watch the shows with Survivor. Yeah, you had like the RHAP watch parties before that, but it was kind of a different animal than what Bryce and Wen were doing, right? Bryce and Wen were really focusing on the experience of being together with people who love Survivor, watching it and talking with survivors as much as possible. It's not like the live show that RHAP does after the episode where they like bring people up on stage and do everything, right? Like it's a complete mix and mingle type of event. And like they're doing like karaoke beforehand and things like that. They were really just focusing on like survivors as people. And I think that was such an important thing to do to help bring the appreciation of Survivor into this decade.
Oh yeah, and I think that I actually have friends that I've met at live shows, Bryson Wen, RHAP, whatever, that are number one, very good friends to this day. But number two, I have somebody who literally was like, I actually wasn't going to continue watching Survivor, and then I met a lot of friends because he was the only one that he knew who watched Survivor, and he met a lot of friends at a live show, and he still is a huge Survivor fan because he has people to talk to about it. And I think, I have a series, I say this almost every single season, you got to start treating Survivor like a sport. And what is the one thing that was the hardest thing to do to treat Survivor like a sport? And that was watch it with other people. Yeah, you could invite people over to your house, but in sports, you can go to a game and you can experience. People are like, I hate baseball on TV, but I love watching baseball. And I love going to a baseball game. That was like the big thing that Survivor wasn't able to do. And this is what watch parties were able to bring to the community and bring to Survivor. And I just want to do a quick shout out because these people have done so much work. Reality Tribe on Instagram has compiled a list of almost probably every single Survivor watch party across the country. It is an absolutely amazing list. And so I'm saying this because I genuinely believe Survivor watch parties are something that every single Survivor fan should try to experience at one point in their life, because you can go up to anybody and talk about Survivor and they'll know what you're talking about. And the first time that happened to me, I was just like, this is incredible. I love, again, not feeling crazy. I love not feeling crazy. And so if they put it on there, it's in one of their links. I have it up on my phone right now, but they're just called, I believe it's just it's the Reality Tribe on Instagram. If you go to the link in their bio, they have compiled a list of whether it's weekly, whether it's just this one time. It is an incredible, what's the word I'm looking for? Resource. It's an incredible resource for Survivor fans, because even if you don't live in New York City, or if you don't live in a big city, there are not as big cities on this list. And so I genuinely think this is something that you guys, everybody should try and take a look at.
After this podcast, Tag, I think you need to go back into your 44 Bryson Wen finale predictions reel.
Were you in that?
Yeah, you met both John and I at that party.
Oh my God, 44 was the best one they ever did. For those who don't know, the 44 one, that's when that's when CBS was still not doing like a come to California cast and we'll crown the winner in California, but it just won't be live on TV. And so all the final three of the people in 44 were there, and they had a giant fake check, and it was incredible. That finale was incredible.
Yeah. So we also, during this era, had had Jeff pose a question to the 41 cast. Are we okay with come on in, guys? Do we like it? Is it outdated? And they said, no, it's fine, until Ricard spoke up at the next challenge, being like, you know what? I think we should drop it because we aren't all guys. So let's just do come on in. Now, while Evie was fine with it, or, Tiff was fine with it, like the whole cast was fine, Ricard voiced his opinion and was like, you know what? I think this should be a change. And this, I think, really started a new era. Like this really kicked off the new era of we are listening to our players a bit more. We are, hearing what they feel comfortable with and moving forward in that matter.
This was a very big response to having a year off Survivor. And I think, first off, the whole come on in, guys, of it all is one of the most overblown things in the Survivor fandom. It doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. But this is a response to a lot of things we saw start up through COVID. And primarily, this is a response to the diversity initiative and all of the talk that was going on about diversity in Survivor and how the show could be better at representing people of all types. And this conversation is something that people really take for granted. I think And I think part of the issue with it is the term guys is used very androgynously and is just used to cover everyone all the time.
Mhm.
But it is a gendered term,
Mhm.
right? Like, and like, okay, we don't really like talking about like the political side of things on the podcast that much, but it is one of those words in our vernacular that, yes, we regularly use it to apply to people of all genders, but there are some people who do feel really excluded from the term. So having this conversation on TV, while I think it comes at a time when Survivor is changing so much that it feels a bit performative, it feels a little weird, but it was so important to have this conversation in the first place. And we were seeing Survivor already going this way with some of the discussions that were happening on the island in 39.
Mhm.
I think so. This is a really interesting topic because the moment it happened, I went, okay, great. That's a new thing. I don't really care. Everyone made a huge, big deal about this. And especially on the internet where I live. And it was interesting because there was another phrase that was dropped that nobody talked about because they didn't bring attention to it. And that was 39 days, 18 people, one survivor. Well, obviously he would have had to say 26 days. And to me, that was a bigger deal, that him dropping that. But nobody was talking about it because they didn't make a big deal about it on the show.
No.
I think they made a couple of mistakes here, if I'm being completely honest. I think that Jeff probably did not want to say it anymore. And I think that's completely fine. I think he wanted to say, come on in. And you know what?
Just do it.
Just do it. Like, that's totally fine. I think that this conversation is interesting, but it was done in a way that put the onus on Ricard. It put the onus on the players. And yes, I think that it's a very important conversation to be had. But I do not think that you should in any way put the blame on the players when it's something that you say and you do, Jeffrey. And I think he just maybe should have said, like, hey not guys. Hey y'all. I'm not saying guys anymore. I'm saying come on in. I
don't think I would have noticed if he dropped.
I don't think anybody would have noticed. I do understand why the conversation is important, but then I think it's also missing something a little bit because they still have people that they cast as half women. Like the cast is half women and half men, and there has obviously they have cast trans players. Even before the new era, Evie after the fact came out as non-binary.
Teeny has transitioned. But I think that like that's why I feel that the conversation is like, because it's still they're still casting half women and half men. But I think that it's the biggest non-issue. Like people who are mad personally about come on in guys, I'm like, find something else. Like it's really it's really not that big of a deal. And is that really the thing that you cared about? Because I doubt before season 41, like anybody cared about it as much. No, totally not. We also saw an uptick in mentioning pop culture references in the new era. I don't think we heard a lot about, Taylor Swift, Pokemon, D&D, and especially now coming into 50, we have Mr. Beast, we have Billie Eilish, Jimmy Fallon. So like they're clearly like wanting to also talk about the outside world a little bit more in the new era and opening the doors to be able to, talk about things that people might have in common that are more than just, oh, you're from New York, I'm from New York. Great.
I love this. I love it. Feels tangible. It feels real. Nobody does like, we all have shared interests. Not everybody, obviously, but you can meet somebody and usually find common ground, but that common ground isn't always, the stuff that's non like copyright or whatever else. And so the fact that it's something that, maybe younger people tend to like, but that, hey, this person is just like me. I also love Pokemon. I also love D&D, whatever else. I think it's a really fun way to make these people feel more like people and not just characters.
I think that's the really important thing about it is we live in a society dominated by social media and just popular culture in general, right? If you exclude conversations about this from your reality TV show, you're not showing reality. Like, this is how people connect. Yeah, sure, we can connect on our shared trauma, we can connect on like shared experiences, but the easiest way for us to connect is like saying, hey, my favorite movie is Holes. No way, mine is too. Right? Like, first off, it's absurd, and I still don't believe it. But that is an easier way to have these conversations. Even like if we go back to 42 and like people are talking about like Harry Potter and things that are connecting that way, right? Like these are the ways that people talk in society. These are the way, especially in North American society, is the big thing, right? Like we're only casting North Americans. North American society is so dominated by popular culture. It is so dominated by who is wearing what and who are you connecting with and what type of art are you consuming. To ignore it on Survivor is just ignoring why these people are close to each other in the first place. Like, and if that's what we're asking for, if we are asking for more evidence of why these people choose to work together, we need to see these conversations. So I'm so glad we got to the point where Survivor isn't scared of copyright words anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe it resulted from all the money they saved from going down to 26 days. I don't know. Maybe that's where it's coming from. But I'm so glad they could just mention it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the casting in the new era. And I think one real big uptick that we saw is like the backyard puzzle maker. I've made all of these I've 3D printed these puzzles. I know them front and back. Or I've built this giant snake puzzle. I've built the Swiss cheese puzzle in my backyard, where they know how to ace it. I mean, we saw Evian 41 with the buoy pyramid that people have taken so long on. They just go boop, 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 and that's it. And their tribe was behind. We see Carson now having a 3D puzzle business because he was doing it before Survivor started. So like we see a real uptake in these kind of super fans versus like the nerdy, like I love Survivor super fans.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting. So I've read I got Rob Cesternino's book and I read his book, and it was really interesting hearing his take on how when he was on Survivor, he was not allowed to be self-referential at all. He was the first one of the first super fans to ever be cast on the show. Obviously loved the show, loved the game, but he was not allowed to reference the TV show at all. It was like you could not acknowledge the fact that this was like people at home were going to watch this. And fast forward to, Suri being the woman who got off the couch. They're like actually talking about, that it is in fact a show and people do actually watch this. And now it's incredibly self-referential. You have these fans who are these puzzle makers, and you have people who, want a challenge is putting the logos in order and all of this stuff. And so I think that Survivor really likes to lean into this idea that like their fans are the best fans, and look at these fans who love the show so much they're willing to, go the extra mile to remember all of these things and work on, these things in their backyard and practice it. And I absolutely respect the hustle from those players. I'm like, yes, do it. If you're able to game the system, then you should absolutely game the system. I think, it is seeing players that are able to memorize puzzles and do these puzzles incredibly quickly is a failure on the production team to not update their puzzles. But I'm like, yeah, girl, like memorize that puzzle, do that thing, like make them at home, because anything that can give you another step forward in this game is beneficial. But it's a really interesting thing that like, we're coming from not being allowed to talk about Survivor, the TV show, to casting people that make the puzzles themselves at home and then putting videos of them doing those puzzles on television. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Did you have something?
I don't know how I feel about this because it's gotten to a point where, again, I talked about it earlier, how the new era has this formulaic approach to it, which has allowed for these type of players to get on there, right? Like it got to a point where it's like, okay, we can do this now because like I've seen this puzzle over and over again. I can probably just print it out. Or, you know, we have these crazy super fans who are like, I'm going to print out every single puzzle Survivor's ever done and just do them every day because I can. It's fine. I'm fine with it. Whatever. It's like, it's the exact same as training your grip strength for some of these challenges that we see over and over again, or like, you know, doing a ton of squats or anything
running.
like that, right? Like, it's the same as physically training. It's the same as practicing making fire. It's just, I think there's still a negative connotation to it when you look at like making puzzles, because not everyone can do it. Like there is a bit of privilege involved with the ability to be able to do that. And like, come on, how much of a nerd do you really have to be out here like printing out puzzles and working on them all the time?
At least they didn't throw all of them in a sweater vest. I just have to say that.
That's true.
That's real.
And one thing also with showing these clips from home of them doing these puzzles, we also get clips shown of like Tiffany in 41 being like, I was an alternate. I flew out here with a week to go. Like, there are certain things that we get to get a peek behind the curtain about casting as well. Like, I don't think I've ever really known who was an alternate pre-New Era. We have them admitting on the mat, I was an alternate and now I'm here. This is crazy. So I always think like, oh, that's the cast. I never have even thought of, all right, who's an alternate? And now with these seasons, I'm like, okay, who's an alternate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alternates, it's a very interesting thing. And I think I actually talked about this at some point when specifically about when Emily Flippin brought up Bruce getting having an advantage, even though he got out the first day. And I made a video basically saying like, yeah, it absolutely is an advantage because you're kind of able to understand what it's like to be out there. And I think this all goes back to in season 41 when the new era is the new era, because I believe the producers were stir crazy during COVID. And they said, hey, let's just do all of the ideas we wrote down in a year and a half, and let's just see how it goes.
All in one season.
All in one season, and let's just see what happens and see how it goes. Obviously, it doesn't really work. But I think that, you know, it reignited Jeff's love for Survivor and love specifically for the show, and maybe not necessarily the game, but the television show and what it has become. And I think, you know, it's if you ever feel like you're kind of burnt out by something, take a step away, and in, you know, 4 months you'll probably be happy, or you're be excited that you're doing this again. And the reason why I bring all this up is because in that premiere of season 41, we see Jeff with the longer hair, like walking and talking directly to us, which has like never happened. And then he says, look at this. And he has the camera turn around and we see all of the cameras. He breaks the fourth wall for the first time really ever outside of medical emergencies. And it is a fascinating thing that they did. And I think that Jeff loves to produce a television show, and specifically this television show. And I think a big part of that is letting the viewers know like what's actually going on. Like, I work in hospitality. When somebody doesn't understand something, I'll sit down and explain, hey, this is why you can't have your table, or this is why it looks like the restaurant's empty and we can't get you seated. This is why we can't get you seated. Because I feel like knowledge is power. And
we'll get there.
And I think that he really likes to be like, hey guys, look, if you apply, like I'm thinking about season 46, when the social media team every single day leading up to the premiere showed the audition tape for each player. And that was like crazy. And I think that Jeff wants people to know that, hey, you can do this. And hey, like this is a TV show, but like, here's kind of how it works. And here's who these people are. And I think it just goes back to him like wanting to share his love for Survivor, which I think got reignited during the new era.
Yeah. You mentioned Bruce returning. Okay, so now we can talk a little bit about Bruce being the only returning player because he got medevaced day 1 because he bumped his head and was bleeding profusely. And then he comes back for the next season, and he is a returning player, yes, but he's had a day in the game. But yes, he might have those advantages of knowing how the pregame works, of like knowing what to do, what not to do at Ponderosa, what not to do on the mat, what have you. But like after day 1 is over, he's not a returning player anymore. He's the rest of the cast, in my opinion. Thoughts on Bruce?
I mean, we love Bruce on the Specialist, obviously.
I mean, of course, yeah.
This is a very interesting precedent that they set, and they haven't gone back to it, which is very fascinating. The fact that they brought Bruce back right away is really telling of how much production liked Bruce as a character and what he brought. And I think he did bring it in 45. I think he was a very good addition to that cast, and he worked really well with them. My question is like, is this something that they're going to continue doing? Because we saw Bruce wasn't even the only medevac in 44.
Well, he also wasn't the first day medevac either. Like we had Jackson get medevaced in 42. We have Pat in David versus Goliath. So Bruce must have been something that they needed, like an advantage in the game, that they were like, this is going in whether you say yes or no, we are going to put it in. So like Bruce was something that production was like, needs to play the game no matter what.
I think that this is an interesting conversation. So I think that Bruce is, I'm happy he was brought back. I think he and Jackson are a little bit of a different situation. Yes. But it is interesting. I think that honestly, I think production feels like lied to with Jackson.
Yeah.
And
it's a different story. But
it's just really interesting though, even though he was medevaced, like just a very interesting thing. I think the big thing here is that it was literally his injury happened within the first 10 minutes of the show. Like he, I believe, was the first one to go through, or maybe not the first one, but he like early on goes through, and it happened at the very beginning of the challenge. I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, the mud pit is right in the beginning of the challenge.
Yeah, right at the beginning of the challenge. He technically wasn't medevaced until that night, but it was because his headaches kept going. So even though he was there for a day, he wasn't, because I've been concussed before multiple times. When you're concussed, you are not there. Let me tell you, I don't have a memory of one of the times I was concussed, and then I do have the memory of the other time I was concussed, and it's not pretty, y'all. She was loopy, she was dumb, she was
not all there.
So I think it's like, I really think that Bruce is a one and done situation unless something like that happens again, because I truly do not believe he played the game. I do think Emily was right. He does have an advantage. But I do think that all alternates have an advantage. I think every single alternate has an advantage when they come back, because they know what the flight is like. They're not anxious about, they're not as anxious about Ponderosa. They kind of know that they can learn how to build a fire longer, whatever it is. They know the ins and outs a little bit more. So I think that Bruce has the same advantage as alternates, but Bruce is a really interesting case study, if you will. But I do think he's a one and done. I would be very shocked if we see something like Bruce again, just because of how he was injured.
Yeah. So let's get into some of the gameplay of the new era. And people have started to game the system here with the new era. They're able to predict what they can do when, next moves, because it started to become very formulaic. Oh, we're going to have the earn the merge. Then we're going to have to split within a vote or two. We're going to have to do this, that, or the other thing. We know a journey's coming at this point. And when your cast is able to predict what's going to happen, it doesn't lead to very dynamic gameplay. It leads to a little bit more of like stick to the plan. And while that's good in some cases, it's not good in all cases.
Yeah, I've been harping on this entire podcast. It actually kind of surprises me we don't see more people talking about it. Maybe the producers are just like cutting it out of confessionals or tribe conversations. But it's very formulaic, as you know when these things are going to happen, and you can kind of figure out how to approach them. Now, we've seen a bit more variety since they've added tribe swaps back as a 44. I mean, like 44, the one person moving a tribe, ridiculous. Please never do that again. Bad decision. But like once we started getting actual factual tribe swaps again, there's been a little bit, there's a little bit more unpredictability put into that pre-merge section. The problem is right now is the post-merge is very formulaic. The post-merge is, hey, here, or I guess technically like the earn the merge into the post merge, right? You get, here's your earn the merge. Half of you are going to be safe. Half of you won't be. You're not going to have this big vote because we're going to split you into 2 tribes now. And one of you is going to vote out in a small tribe again because we're doing a tribe swap right after we merged you. It makes it so that it's a little more, it's a little easier for players to be like, okay, these are the pivotal things that I need to avoid in order to go further in the game. I think this is actually why we see Rizzo able to hold on to his idol for so long in 49 is because there's this predictability to how things are going to progress for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think predictability is the downfall of Survivor. I think doing 2 seasons in a row is not great for Survivor. Like filming 2 seasons in a row, because I think they need if they add something, I think they should get feedback from the fans, and they can't in between when they do 2 seasons in a row. They've never been able to do that because they've always done 2 seasons in a row, pretty much. But it's one of the things that I think
the same formula 2 seasons in a row. It's like, all right, we're going to Millennials versus Gen X, and then we're going to Game Changer. Like, or whatever go wrong to Millennials versus Gen X. You know, it's different.
Is this happening for you too, John?
Yeah, it is. Sorry, McKenna, you're
breaking up
over on us. So anyway,
I thought it was my internet, but then you were totally fine, and so I was like, I think that this is probably
it's McKenna. It's fine. It happens every once in a while.
No, yeah. So I feel like, what were we saying? Oh, yeah. So doing 2 in a row, I think is because I truly don't. I feel like they do the same thing twice, and they go, let's see how that goes. And I think that's not as good for the game, because I think predictability is bad for the players and it's bad for the fans. And I think that and that's why I'm just like, it's so easy to just change something, do 2 tribes. Like, I feel like it's such an easy fix, which is why it drives me nuts, because I just like, I can see the fix. I can see it. It's right there. It's right there.
That's what's nice going into 50, though. I will say, because there are 24 players in 26 days, who knows how that's going to work. Yeah. But it'll be different than anything we've seen before.
Yep. That is true. Very true.
One thing that I actually like that they introduced here in the new era is the shot in the dark. I think it's a good twist that they added, where everybody has a shot in the dark and they can give up their vote to play this. And you have the mental warfare of, is my chance at safety better or is my vote better in this case? Do I know for sure I'm the one going home, or is my vote potentially the flip of, if I just voted, then I would have been safe?
Like the Sydney. Sydney. I love the shot in the dark and the hot takes draft. This was my number 1 draft pick, that the shot in the dark is a good advantage. I don't think it's that hot of a take. I think a lot of people agree with this, but I love the shot in the dark because I think it really, you know how we said like predictability leads to not as good gameplay and is not as good for the fans. The shot in the dark is not predictable. Because you don't know if somebody's going to use it. Yes, you might feel like you're on the bottom, but am I really on the bottom? Like, I remember hearing John Lovett talk about this, and he was like, well, I felt like I had a 1 in 6 chance of making people feel like I was, making the vote go my way. And I felt like and there's a 1 in 6 chance of the shot in the dark. So in that case, I went with the making the vote go my way. Clearly I was wrong. And I find it fascinating. And, we see more blindsides because of the shot in the dark. I think of the Idol with in season 46 with Q, Jess, Kenzie, and Tiffany, that fake Idol. That was because of the shot in the dark. And then we get moments like Caleb. And then having it swing back to Jay. Like, it's just, I think it's a really interesting formula. But then we also see people like Andy be like, hey, I'll give you my shot in the dark. Or Rachel have the idea, like, if we give up our shots in the dark, can we get the rice? I think that it's a really interesting and intriguing thing that was added into the game that actively made the show better.
I'm so glad we brought up the shot in the dark, because I think the most fascinating thing about it, and it harks back to something I was going to mention earlier, but like we kind of moved on from it, so I didn't get a chance. The most powerful thing anyone has in Survivor is their vote. And the shot in the dark says, hey, will you give up the one thing you're guaranteed in this game for potential safety? And it's actually a question that has consequences to it. There's a risk involved because it is a random 1 in 6 chance of actually getting it or not. There's a real risk when it could be better for you to be like, hey, like, use my vote and like socially navigate a situation. It adds layers. And I think it's so nice that we've gotten to this point in the new era where we're not seeing shot in the darks used all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time? I guess
it was not used at all during 49, which is the first time since its inception. Yeah,
we obviously saw it in 48, and it led to some wild tribal councils. And then 47, we have Rachel kind of like innovating a new way to use it when she uses it to gauge whether or not to play her immunity idol. So there's so many fascinating aspects that the shot in the dark adds, and it's such a low risk advantage to put in. They honestly, it's not very often Survivor gets an advantage right immediately on its inception. The shot of the dark is one of 2 in the new era that they were just correct with right away.
Yep.
Yeah. And it leads to people planning other votes around it. So like Sophie Segretti in 49 being like, all right, so I'm just going to throw Juwan just in case I get hit with the shot in the dark. I don't want to go home already. And that sparks a whole different conversation. And it leads to, well, why are you putting my name down?
Yep.
Why are you putting someone else's name down? Like, I have to put someone's name down because I don't want to go out, but we're just trying to dump on this one person. But what about the shot in the dark? So it just leads to a bunch of different conversations with people where it's not just all right, dump on one person. They know they don't have the idol because we have the idol, but they have the shot in the dark. And that
And I also want to say, I mentioned some ways that people use the shot in the dark in interesting ways, but I forgot to mention Matthew, because Matthew in the terrible, terrible tribal council where Maddie Pamela goes home.
Yes, St. Cliffo, technically it should be guaranteed, but there are moments where their vote is no longer guaranteed. And it is frustrating. We already covered that way earlier, and we didn't have to rehash it.
But I think that Maddie Pamela, one of the craziest vote outs of all time, in my opinion, genuinely goes home with a singular vote, first vote of the season. I don't want to talk about it. I'm going to get emotional, but I'm going to talk about it. Matthew uses his shot in the dark because he does not want to have to choose. And I think that is also an incredibly interesting use of this advantage. Like this advantage has so many different, like this is, you're right, John, the perfect advantage that they can add in, because while it's very good on paper, it's even better in practice because it gives people other ways to barter, to game the system, because again, it goes back to me saying, I want Survivor players to play the game. I don't want the game to play Survivor. And this is perfect because it's Survivor players playing this game. And they rarely get it right, but they got it right with this one.
Yeah. We also get the loss of pre-merge idols and the insertion of beware advantages that essentially are an idol. And we have the evolution of saying the silly phrase, and all 3 tribes have to say it at the same time to get your vote back. We have a bird cage. We have a lockbox that determines the tribal council that you can play it at. And so like we have this beware advantage where it's not static every season, where it shifts and there's moves. So do we like that they switched up the pre-merge idols to be beware advantages? Because there is a risk with having an idol, or should we just hide idols again?
Okay. I have a lot to say on this. I'm going to try to keep it succinct.
Okay.
I've already expressed how much I dislike people losing votes unless they're like actually risking them for something like the shot in the dark. the beware aspect of the beware advantage should be someone knowing you have an idol. And we have gotten to the point where that's where beware advantages are. Beware advantages are no longer the say some stupid phrase and wait until everyone says their stupid phrase and then you get your vote back. Like, that was a terrible decision. Yes,
It
it
was so
was
funny though.
hilarious.
so
It
funny.
was hilarious. But it, again, like you said, Tegwith, it's the game playing the players rather than the players playing the game. Like, whenever the player has to rely on someone else in order to restore their vote, that's dumb. We've now gone to the point with, like, if we look at like Alex's beware advantage in 49, where it's like, haul this giant ass chain across the island so you can unlock a box to get your idol. That's good. But the other issue that I have with beware advantages is they've actually kind of gone a bit too far, because now they're like, oh, you need at least one other person to come do this with you in order to get it. And at that point, it's not really a hidden immunity idol anymore. And I think that's where production's really lost it when it comes to beware advantages. I think there should be risk in getting these. I think a beware advantage should be, I think we've seen beware advantages prior to the new era. But those beware advantages were idols hidden under the shelter, idols hidden above the shelter, idols hidden at challenges.
Yeah.
Those are your type of beware advantages that I think Survivor needs to move back to, because there has to be risk in getting them, right? That's how we really perfect this entire thing. I like it. I like the fact that we have idols that are expiring after a certain amount of time. I love what they did in 47 with the lockboxes. I think that was genius to have it so that you could determine how good your idol was based on how far you were willing to go and potentially expose yourself with this idol. That's smart. That is one of the best idol designs they have had, period, let alone in the new era. I just don't like it and I don't like the fact that we've gotten to this point where people are risking their vote and they don't even get a chance to restore it until they lose an immunity challenge, when they should be spending their time socializing with their tribe and figuring out a vote.
Yeah.
I think that a beware advantage should be an advantage, and not like, I think an idol is given in the sense that an idol is always going to be hidden at tribe camp. I think that the beware advantage should not always be a guaranteed thing every season. I think it's an interesting, I like a beware advantage. I don't like what it did. Okay, can I just say also, Jamal it was a beware advantage, but he didn't say beware on it. And again, we're bringing up this again because genuinely, it pisses me off. Okay, bring him back. Okay, but I think that the perfect iteration of the beware advantage is the caught red-handed Suze.
Yeah. Rhea also did that too.
Okay, actually, rewind. I don't want it to be an advantage. What I want it to be is if somebody uses an idol and they re-hide an idol, that's when it should become a beware advantage. I don't think I need like idols to be like, I don't think I like that, because that means it's not guaranteed every single season. And it's only going to happen if somebody plays an idol. But maybe I think that beware advantages are incredibly interesting because are you putting yourself out there for this thing that also might not even be worth it in the end? You know, you might play the idol wrong. It's not an all powerful thing. But I also think a beware advantage you should not know what you're going to get. You know, think of the auction. You know, a covered item could be great, but it also could be bad. I don't think that it should be a bad thing, but maybe a beware advantage is, hey, you know, you take this, you have to do this thing, and you end up with an extra vote. Like, maybe you're not guaranteed to get an extra, because I think it's interesting to have people turn something down. Be like, hey, I don't think I want this. You know, it's happened. Andy turned it down at one point. Who was it? Jeannie.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an interesting, again, it goes back to people and their decisions. But I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff that they could do.
Yeah, it's become predictable that you find the beware advantage in the pre-merge and it's an idol. But what if there was an idol still hidden at camp and the beware advantage was an extra vote, a steal a vote, a challenge advantage, or, you know, or challenge disadvantage, something like that, where it's like, you don't know what you're going to get. You have to gamble and roll the dice. It could be a disadvantage on you, like whatever it may be. That's why it's beware, because you have to deal with whatever is in it.
Because really, no one has to beware. They know what's going to happen. They're going to
Yeah.
lose their vote. They got to do a thing, and then they get an idol and they get their vote back. What is to beware about that? Right? Beware means beware if you come in, something could happen, but you don't know what it is. Like, that's what beware means.
What if we change the beware stipulation? What if the beware stipulation isn't you lose a vote, but you get a vote placed against you? Wouldn't that be so much more interesting?
Oh, that's fascinating. John, I feel like we should team up and just produce Survivor.
Yeah, well, clearly we're supposed to be our production tech.
Yeah,
that's
like
right.
John McKenna, like let's get it together. Let's put our
I think
together.
we've had some really good ideas for the new era. Jeff Probst, Matt Van Wagen, like anybody, John Kierhofer, anybody. So we said we were going to talk knowledge is power. Let's do that now. Do we like the advantage? Do we think it's good, bad? John likes it. Tag with you're on the fence. Where are we going?
Well, I just want to say I like it, but what I like most about it is the that I like that in Survivor when you use something once, it's now like this could potentially be in the game, and you have to think about that. Here's the thing where I think that they failed. They used it a lot in the beginning and then just didn't really for a while. And so I feel like it's not on everyone's front of mind. I think it's an interesting advantage. I think that this is a good one to add into the game because I think knowledge is power. I said this earlier. And I think, and yet knowledge is power. And yet everyone is sharing their idols. It's so fascinating. It's a fascinating dichotomy. But I would love to hear John's opinion on knowledge power because he seems much more passionate than me about this.
I've really just been brainwashed by Will at this point, who is a huge proponent for the knowledge is power. But I do agree with him and his analysis of it. The thing that the knowledge is power has made interesting is it makes it so that people have to really navigate votes. And I think we really see the pinnacle of what the knowledge is power can do when we see Jesse take Janine's idol in 43 via Dwight because of knowledge is power. Crazy. Like that is fascinating. That is a brand new level of strategy we had not seen prior to it. But I think the thing with the knowledge is power is it really does incentivize people not to be sharing their idols. And the fact that there were a couple of seasons where we didn't have it, but we see it again in 49 means that people might now once again be like, oh man, I had to get 3 people to help me get this idol, but knowledge power could exist. Like that's scary. That is some scary stuff. And I think what we'll see, we're not going to see people adjust to it in 50 because they didn't see 49 air. But I think come 51, we are going to see people respect the possibility that knowledge is power is out there once again.
And can I just say, I think that the knowledge is power. Like, I want to see it played successfully. I'm begging production, do a regular idol so I can see the knowledge is power be played successfully. We've seen it fail 4 times now, 3 times, 4 times. I want to see it work. Let me see it work, please.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, you know where an advantage is, and that should have been like, holy crap, I somehow found out that this person has an idol. Great. Let's do something about it and take it and then use the idol just to, get rid of it or, so I can find it later or something like that. Or keep it for yourself and hope that you have a strong enough alliance where they don't vote you out for it. But
I think that's one of the most disappointing things about the knowledge is power in 49 is that we finally had someone who wasn't telling anyone about it and knew where an advantage was. And it just didn't come to fruition. But I think now that we've seen Sophie kind of navigate a game with knowledge is power and not telling anyone until the last minute when, please don't, Sophie, please don't. But I think what it is, it tells people the real power in knowledge is power is knowing yourself and not letting anyone else know. So I do think we are going to see a trend towards more secretive advantages again in the future based on 49.
Yeah. Also, this is an idea. What if they put a knowledge is power in the beware advantage?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah. I think that'd be crazy, and I would love that. You're working with people to get something out, and then you think it's an idol, and then it actually ends up being knowledge is power. What do you tell people? Oh no, I'm so sorry, I opened it, and it actually was not an idol, and definitely nothing else.
I just got a piece of paper.
I was told I had to do 10 push-ups. Darn.
Well, like Jamal's, I got a piece of paper and a pencil.
Yeah. Well,
so another option that we could put in the Beware advantages on all three camps, amulets. What are our thoughts on the amulets? I feel like they don't really work out how production intended them to work out. I think they wanted to use it as a cross-tribal tool for a new alliance, but they always wound up voting out two people, then have an idol. And it never really worked as a shared advantage. And do you think that's because, like, well, the three of us aren't in the same tribe, and we're not really working together, so the extra vote doesn't count. To steal a vote, who are we stealing? We're still not working together, and so I'm just gonna vote you guys out and take the idol.
I think in theory, the amulet works a lot better than it actually does in practice. I think, honestly, it probably works better if it's just always an idol, which I think is what it was in 45, right? In 45, it had gotten to the point where all of them was an idol. They just all had to be played at the same time.
Oh, was it? Yeah. Did they have to agree that they were playing the idol on someone?
I think, or maybe it was 47, as Gyro D. Garcia is saying in the comments here. Yeah, I think like the idol works better if it is like a full-fledged, or the amulet works better if it's a full-fledged idol that everyone has to cooperate on. I think you still get to the point where people want to cut each other out so that they can get it that way, but it also has a chance of being used. I think like an extra vote, I've said many times in the past weeks, I think the extra vote is like not a powerful advantage.
Yeah.
I think it's a very weak advantage, and I don't think there's any incentive to use a potential idol as that. But I think when you get further into the game, there are times when like an idol could be very helpful for a group of three, and it could actually incentivize these three to work together, right? So I think the amulet just like it needs some tweaks, and then it might work. But again, you might also just get someone really, really upset that you didn't choose the sandwiches.
Yeah, can I say a little hot take on this?
Yeah, let's go.
I think that while I don't think the amulets don't work really, like how you were saying, John, but honestly, I don't think it's a bad game mechanic, because I think it's a really interesting thing. People are on different tribes, and yet you randomly have an enemy in somebody. Why do you not like why are you gunning for this random person you just met this much? I think it's actually a really interesting way to expose like your social gameplay or social dynamics. And I don't think it works. I don't think it's a really good game edition, but I think it's good for television, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I think that it gives us like interesting moments and funny sagas, if you will. And sometimes I do think that that's a benefit. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing when it might not work for the game, but it actually works for the TV show. Because I mean, it was like, I vividly remember watching Austin go for, who was it? It was J. Maya and who was the other person? I can't remember.
Emily, wasn't it?
Was it Emily? And it just being like the curse of the sandwich. And I thought it was a very funny saga. And I don't even think that, like, obviously he had his core 4, or was it 4? Yeah, 4. Yeah, but I don't know. I just think that it could possibly expose something. Why didn't you tell me you had that? You clearly have something, whatever else. So I do think that there is an interesting way. It just doesn't need to be always. Does that make sense? Like, I wouldn't be mad if I see it once or twice, every 10 seasons. But I don't need it all the time.
Yeah. So I've got one more question, and then we have some questions in our live chat that we'll get to. We have some winners. And so who are your favorites or some standouts? We have Erica, Marianne, Gabler, Jam D, Kenzie, Rachel, Kyle, and Savannah. So Tegwith, I think I know, but I'm just going to ask. Who's your favorite winner of the new?
I don't know. This is so hard.
I know more.
Okay. I have never been happier than when Kenzie won. That was that was the happiest I'd ever felt. I was rooting for her since day one. She was Ryan's winner pick. She was almost my winner pick. I had a feeling about her. I feel like I see a lot of myself in her. And so selfishly, I was rooting for myself to win. So I was incredibly over the moon, overjoyed that she won. I was really pleasantly surprised by Marianne's win. I did not expect that at the beginning of the season. And yet I really loved that she won that season. I was so happy. So happy. I think that, like, here's the thing. I think we have a lot of really strong winners in the new era. Like, I'm going to go through like everybody. I think what I will say though, I think this is who you thought I was going to say to begin with. I'm kind of overly defensive about season 48 because I don't actually think it's as bad as everyone says it is. I think that we just came from season 47. We had a really good pre-merge, and then the post-merge was kind of boring. But I think boring gameplay is because there is incredible gameplay. And I think that in 10 years, in 5 years, we're going to look back on season 48 and say Kyle is one of the most dominant winners to ever play this game. And yes, I am friends with Kyle, and I know that. But I was not friends with him when I watched the season. And I said this all season. He just knew how to play the game. And I genuinely believe he plays one of the most dominant games in Survivor, with also good game moves. It's not just social. It's also really good game moves. And I think that, genuinely think in like 5 to 7 years, people who binge 48 are going to be like, how did they let Kyle get to the end? And I mean, we said that while it was happening. But yeah, I just think that he's a great winner. But I could say that about everybody in the new era. Like, genuinely, I think the new era has a lot of really, really, really impressive winners.
Well, if you want to hear us talk more about Kyle, please stay tuned after celebrating Survivor. Phil and I are talking about Icarus time. We're talking about Kyle, Camilla, and Joe all returning for season 50. John, your favorite winner from the new era?
There are a lot of options here, obviously, because they're a winner every season. There's a big argument for D having like the most impressive game. I think like it's between D and Kyle for most impressive game. Just like the way she's able to navigate the social scenarios to get to the end of the game. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and throw it to our first Canadian queen, Erica, because I think Erica actually plays an astounding game and it's just really poorly edited. If you listen to the cast of 41 discuss how Erica was navigating that pre-merge, how Erica was navigating the merge, she was playing on a level very similar to these two dominant people that we are talking about. And it's just not shown because Survivor like kind of was still at a point where they didn't know how to, and I mean, they still don't know how to edit these under the radar type players. And Erica wasn't like the most compelling confessionalist, but her gameplay is astounding when you know to look for it.
Yeah, I think after just watching Erica win, she definitely was one that I was going to mention. I was also going to mention Marianne because the growth that Marianne has throughout her season is incredible because I found her so, like, she was just so high energy, and while she never lost the high energy, she gained strategy and gameplay, and her final tribal council is amazing. Then we also have Gabler, who's such a polarizing winner, and where you can find game moves of like the Alligabler, rising and going underneath under the water. Jam Jam was also one of those like, oh, we think Carson should win, we think Carolyn should win, or but he winds up taking that win there. And Rachel and Savannah here as well, where I think if we're gonna pull some people from the new era, I think Rachel it might get another shot at the game, even though she is a winner, because she didn't have like the squeaky clean winner game. She was ups and downs throughout the whole entire game. She was top of the tribe, then immediately fell to the bottom and never kind of gained that footing, was target number 1 throughout a bunch of the post-merge, and then fell into tribal council at final tribal council and was like, all right, I'm here, this is my game, and took the crown. And then so I think we have a bunch of really strong winners in the new era that like I think sometimes are clouded by people maybe not liking the season as a whole.
And I also think it's really interesting here. And you know, we see a lot of things in the mirror. Obviously, there was a diversity initiative in casting where it was like 50% BIPOC on the cast, which what they absolutely did every single season. But I think it's really interesting. So that actually helped what I'm about to say. But what I find fascinating is that in the new era, we have the, I believe, first ever Asian Canadian, but Asian
Asian winner. Yeah.
female Asian winner. Thank you. We have the first female Black winner since the Sepia, which is an incredibly long time. We have the first openly gay winner since Todd Herzog. You know, and we see what 6 women win in 10 seasons, and is it 9 seasons? Sorry. Which has never really happened. Like we see 3 women win in a row. No, yeah, 3 women win in a row, 45, 46, and 47, which has not happened since the 20s, right? Since 40, 23, 24, 25, 20, no, 23, 24, 25. And so I think that's a really interesting to look at that span and be like, what did they change here other than just the, because also all of the women winners, it was always 50% women, right? So that didn't change. Why are there so many women winning in the new era compared to what we came out off of, which was what 6 seasons of men winning in a row, 5 seasons of men winning in a row? It's just a fascinating change. Why does the shorter game benefit, you know, the social player? And do women typically play more social games? You know, what is it about this new era that empowers women and people who don't typically win Survivor to win Survivor? It's incredibly fascinating and something that has been a really positive thing, in my opinion, for the new era.
So we have a question. What are some of the advantages that you would like to see return in 50? We have about 10 minutes until we have to wrap up the podcast. So quickly, some advantages that you think should be in the game that are like new era coded. So
we're gonna have the shot in the dark. It will be there. Like there's no question about it. I'd like the knowledge is power. It would be good to see like returning players navigating an advantage like that. But we also know that the Billie Eilish boomerang idol exists. So maybe we don't need these advantages back.
I think it would be hilarious if Colby had to like put his hand in red paint, or like coconuts with red paint just drop and he's got to be like, well crap. Like now I got to deal with
Colby's gonna be looking for an advantage?
No, but that's who I want to find. Like that's who I want to find something like this where he's like, all right, great. I'm finding an advantage. And it's like, this is what I get. I get paint. Like, what is this?
Yeah, I think those are the two really that I don't. You know what? Hot take on with the hourglass. No, I'm just kidding.
I joked about this recently.
They might have some extra ones just lying in the bag.
They definitely do. We've seen them on every season.
Yeah, so I think those are really the two main ones. I don't need to see beware advantages again, but I'm guessing they're going to be there.
How do we think that the non-journey people will react to going on a journey or needing to go on journeys?
Are they going to have journeys? That's one question I find myself asking now, because simply like reading into a trailer a little bit, I'm not sure if Devin finds the Billie Eilish boomerang idol on a journey rather than in camp.
I don't know if this is accurate. No, I think this is inaccurate. Tell me what. I thought I heard a rumor that Exile or Redemption Island was back. Had you heard this?
No, I had not heard that at all.
Or maybe it was Exile. I'm not sure.
Exile is back. I'm here for it.
I don't know. I don't actually think. I think number one, I don't think they'll have time to do journeys. I think they'll figure out something else.
Especially with the big cast, like it's hard to do that.
I know they still have 90 minutes, but still, it's a lot of people to make sure you're putting on screen. I mean, maybe they will. I don't know. But I also could have sworn I saw somewhere that there was like an Exile or Redemption or something.
Whoa. All right, then. Well, I'm going to rattle off some big moments that happened throughout the new era that we got submitted from our Instagram posts that we put up a while back. We talked about the Jackson and Bruce medevacs. We have Claire changing the sit-out rule where we can't do back-to-back challenges because we are missing rewards now. We have obviously the return from COVID, the Survivor 50 announcement, which was wild. We're getting 50 and it's all returnees, and that's what sparked so much content from everybody in the Survivor world. Telenovela, the 45 quits, the Kelly blindside, as suggested by Jake. He replied to our story and was just like, yes, the Kelly blindside.
Whoa.
Hide and Seek, Operation Italy, the Annika blindside, Rome sitting in Jeff's seat, Jeff giving out candy that he brought to tribal council, obviously the Joe and Eva moment, RIZGOD, the man, the myth, the legend, Riz God baby, and Jeff's analogies that he needs at every tribal council. So thank you all for submitting those. And so as we wrap up, Tegwith, do you have any last thoughts and things you want to talk about the new era?
Well, I love the new era. I love Survivor, and I genuinely think the new era is good television. And I just want to leave everybody with this thought. Comparison is the thief of joy. And I know that comparing what we're watching now to what we used to have is inevitable, because old school Survivor was just so good. And there are some incredible moments of television that happened. But I think that going into Survivor without expectations, like every single season, and just take it as it comes, which is what I try to do. Take the show, as it comes. And yes, be angry at the things that you don't like and complain about the things that you don't like. But I just say, stick with it, because I think genuinely it's a great show. And I try to have the show as it comes, like watch the show as it comes, and really, enjoy it. I think is what I mean to say. We complained a lot this podcast about the new era, but yet I will smile every single time I see any episode go. If I hear Franny, bring my bag, I'm going to smile. Any moment about Survivor, I'm going to enjoy it. And I love sharing it with people. Any Survivor is better than no Survivor. St. Cliffo coming in. He knows his stuff. But so that's what I'm going to leave everybody with is, comparison is a thief of joy. And I hope everyone enjoys 50.
John?
I think the new era, in retrospect, in another 10 years, maybe even 5 years, will not be as disdained as it is. I think people will enjoy it a lot more. Someone said it earlier. Let me see if I can find it here. Where was it? Zwitchman said, the run of 45 to 47 is debatably one of the strongest 3-season stretches in Survivor history. And I can't agree more. Like, those are 3 fantastic seasons right away. Yes, there are first 90-minute seasons, so like we're kind of viewing them a little differently. There are some real high highs in the new era. There's some real low lows, but we've experienced that so many times. I mean, we were talking about it in the 20s. Like, the 20s might be like the worst 10. Like, now that we've done all 5 of these eras, McKenna, the 20s might be the worst era. It just has like the highest of highs lumped in with it.
Yeah.
But it also has the lowest of lows. And so it's very interesting. It's going to be fascinating revisiting the new era after another 10 seasons have come out, to really see how much we dislike it and how much we do like it, and what sticks from it and what doesn't stick from it going forward.
Yeah, I am always happy when Survivor is on, and 41 and 42 were maybe not the best of seasons, but it's a time capsule of Survivor. There are certain seasons that we hate from before new era, but that's a time capsule of Survivor. Survivor is always ever changing, ever growing, and just likes to try some things out. And do they always work? No, but they grow and move on from it. And I think I'm always happy whenever there is Survivor to watch because it does bring an amazing community. It has, it brought me a platform where I can talk about Survivor to a bunch of people, and it just is like Survivor's is just good no matter what is on our screens. And if you guys liked this series, John and I do something very similar with the Survivor Rewind. If you haven't watched us podcast, we talk about past Survivor, but how it relates to the episode that you just watched of Now 50. So tune in every Friday. We will still be coming at you every Friday with some more stuff. Tagwith, what is your show on the Specialists?
It's called Matt Chat. It's very fun. It's going to be every Monday, TBD on time, depending on guests. And we do, on paper, it's recapping the episode and then previewing the next episode. But, my big thing when I podcast is let's see where the conversation takes us. So sometimes we talk a little bit more about the episode. Sometimes we talk about a little bit more about the recapping. Or sometimes we talk about, the feelings of the person that's with me. I love, every single episode is different. And it's a lot of fun. So yeah, if you want to check that out, it's on Mondays.
Amazing. As always, we will have a recap of the episode with Phil and most likely Will on Wednesdays, digging deeper on Thursdays. We have predictions on Tuesdays, power rankings on Sundays. So literally every day but Saturday, you will have content. Additionally, become a patron because there's so much stuff happening. If you want Tegwith to talk about Brant Steels, well, we do that. We talk about Brant Steels on the Patreon. Every season matters, all of that. So become a patron, like the video, subscribe. It really helps us out. And I think that's it. And
no, McKenna, it's not it.
What?
McKenna, you and I will be back here on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Past assessment of Survivor 50, looking at every player's previous appearances on Survivor and what they might need to do to be successful in 50. Australian Survivor starts next week, McKenna. You're out there doing that with Phil.
That's a fly by the seat of our pants.
Phil and Will be concluding the Traders next week at some point. To be determined. Pay attention to that. That's why you subscribe to the channel, so you know when that will happen. And honestly, guys, Survivor 50 is going to be so much fun. We have so much content here and on the Patreon. Phil has a guest lined up for almost every Digging Deeper and Power Rankings this season.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot. If you didn't listen at the end of the draft or any of the other videos we posted in the last little while, the games we usually do are a little different this time. Phil's bringing that predictions episode on Mondays. He's going to start it this week. It's going to be a weekly series. He's joined by Russell Muscle TV this week. 50's here.
Yeah.
50's here, everyone. Like,
can you believe that? We've been talking about 50 for like 8 months.
Yeah.
And it's
we're
finally
here. And it's going to be a blast. And we're so excited to share it with all of you.
But don't go anywhere because Phil and I are going to be talking about Icarus time. So stay tuned. In just a few short minutes, we will be live once again. And see ya.
Bye.